FileMaker calculations include an option that isn't available for other field types, the option for the calculation to be unstored. You can access the storage options for a calculation field using the button that appears near the lower right of the Specify Calculation dialog. For a calculation field, as well as the option to use global storage, one value for all records, there's a separate checkbox option labelled Do Not Store Calculation Results, Recalculate When Needed. This is a significant option that can dramatically change the way a calculation behaves and can also have implications for the performance of your databases. If a calculation is stored, then it's calculated once and the result is written to the record and generally doesn't change unless the field value it depends on changes. So that's relatively efficient but also relatively static. For a calculation like the ones we have here, making the calculation unstored won't make an obvious change to the observable behaviour. It's still computing a result on each record based on the values in the relevant name fields. Because the calculation result in this second calculation field is unstored, every time the window is displayed or refreshed, all the instances of the calculation in the different records are re-evaluated. But since nothing has changed in the values they're referencing within each record, they return the same result. So when I choose Records, Refresh Window, we don't see anything different. The computer's processor actually has to do more work when the screen refreshes, recalculating all of the values for all these calculations at the right of the screen. But it's fast enough to do that without any perceptible delay, so in this case there's no practical difference. However, if I were to change the formula for this calculation to something that would produce a different result at different times, then we'd be able to see a difference. I'll replace the formula with a simple formula, seconds get current time. This will be a number result. And when I dismiss the dialog, you'll see that FileMaker has recalculated the field to produce the number 25 in every record. That's because the time was 25 seconds into the current minute. If I now refresh the screen by choosing Records, Refresh Window, a different value is returned based on the current system clock value. Let's look at a different example. If I include a reference to a field in the table, then append a space, and then add an expression that will produce a random number. Let's say write random 2, which will return the two rightmost numerals of a random number generated by FileMaker. Now you can see that on each record there's a 2-digit random number following the first name in the calculation result of the C New Calc field. This time, every time I refresh the window, you'll see that there's a separate set, or rather a different set, of random numbers appended to the names. So in this rather arbitrary example, it's now possible to see that every time the window refreshes, all of the calculations are re-evaluated and a new result is returned. Let's use a further example. I'll replace the calculation with the formula get record number. FileMaker has computed the record number of each record, and that actually corresponds at this point to the serial number. However, if I omit the current record, serial number 9 now has record number 8 because serial number 8 has been omitted. And if I view only the omitted records, you can see that serial number 8 is now the first record in the found set, and therefore it has a record number of 1. Going back into the Specify Calculation dialog and choosing to store the calculation result, we'll now have a static set of record numbers assigned to each record. So if I now omit record number 8, nothing has changed, and the record number calculation result still corresponds to the serial number. But of course, if I go back and make the calculation result unstored again, again, the result is dynamic and depends on the found set, and will always match the current status of the found set. That is, when a record is in a particular position in the found set, its number, as produced in the calculation result, will correspond to its position. So calculations that depend on contextual information that changes dynamically or over time won't show the changes unless they're re-evaluated, and making a calculation unstored is one way to ensure that each time it's displayed, the information will be current. Another situation where calculations need to be unstored is where they depend on values in related tables. FileMaker tracks calculation dependencies within the current table, but it doesn't track dependencies on related data. So if you include a reference to a related field in your calculation formula, FileMaker will automatically change the calculation to unstored, so that the result will correctly update based on the current related data in whichever other tables you've referenced.